Ready for another session on the Natures project? Then get ready to learn how to include and use an icon font in a project. You'll also learn another way of creating this skewed section design that is all over our page, like in our header. So this non-rectangular design. And plus, you're gonna learn how and when to use the direct child selector. So we have these 4 columns here going on, and when we hover we have this nice effect. And then in each of these boxes we have like the 4 features of this company, so of Natures. So explore the world, meet nature, find your way, and live a healthier life. And then below that is a text, and here on top an icon, and you see this gradient going on here, just like we have in here. So we're gonna do it the same way. And you see this non-rectangular design here that I was talking about earlier. So it's here, and so these lines. But we're gonna leave that for the end. Let's actually start by downloading and including this icon font that we have here, so that we can use some icons in our web page. And the icon font I'm using here is called Linea Free Icon Set. So just head over to linea.io, and then in here you can simply download all sets. And then just wait for download to finish. And so let's take a look at what we have here, okay? So you can take a look at all of these icons, but what we want is actually here in this basics section. So this basics icon pack, and then we want a font. We could just use images like these PNG images here, but that is not a good practice because images do not nicely scale up and down when we scale our web page. But if we have an icon font, then these are vectors, and then no matter how much we would zoom in on the page, the icons will always remain nice and sharp and crisp, and so no problem there. We could also use this SVG format here, and actually we're going to do that in the next project, but that's even more advanced than using an icon font. So we're leaving that for the next project, okay? So let's use this icon font here. And so what we need is this styles.css file and this fonts folder, because this is actually where the icons live. So in this Linea Basic 10 font. So let me just copy these two, go to our desktop, and then to our project folder. Now I want to head into CSS, and this is where I am copying it. And now let's just rename this one here to icon font, so that it's not too similar here to style. Okay, and so that's it actually. Now all we have to do is to, of course, include it in the HTML in our markup. So let's do that very quickly. And we'll actually do it here before our custom CSS. So link, and then the power of Emmet, CSS, and icon font.css. And that's it. Our icon font is now included in the page. Let's just very quickly take a look at this CSS file so that we understand a little bit about how this actually works. So this starts by including these fonts that are here in this fonts folder, right? So these 4 fonts, these are just different formats because different browsers can read different font formats. And so we have to use all of these 4 so that the icon font is going to work on all of the browsers. So what this does is here it includes all of these fonts, and then it defines the font family as calling Linea Basic 10. And then basically what happens down here is that this gives us one class for each of the icons which are included in this icon pack. So it gives us all of these classes like icon basic accelerator, icon basic alarm, icon basic anchor, and so on and so forth. So all of these. Now it's not really important to understand how this works. It doesn't really matter for us. We just want to use this, okay? Just wanted to very quickly give you an overview about how this works. So again, all of the fonts are included, and then based on that font, it will give us one class for each icon that we can use. So all we have to do is to include this class, and it will give us the icon. All right, so let me show you how to do that. But before, of course, we need to start writing our section. So we have a section, and I'm going to call it section features. Okay, and now in this section, let me just demonstrate how we can use the icons that we just included. So we need to add one of the classes that I just showed you to an element. And it doesn't really matter what element it is. And so it's become like a convention to use the I element, okay? And this doesn't stand for icon, okay? Some people, they confuse it, But this I doesn't stand for icon, it actually stands for italic. So in previous versions of HTML, this I was used to make text italic, okay? Now we no longer use it, and so we can use the I for our icons. So let's actually open the folder again that we downloaded from the download, because in here we have an image where we have all our icons. But well, they don't really have a name, so okay, it's not really useful. But we can still open this icons reference, and then in here it should then work. So which one do we want to use? We want to use, for example, this world icon here. And okay, down here it is. So basic world. So I just copied this name, which is the class name. And so class basic world, and now let's take a look. Well, nothing really happened. Okay, reload it again, and let's go back. Okay, I remember that all of these icons, they started with the icon prefix, right? So icon basic book, icon basic book, pencil. So let's add that here as well. And on each icon font that you're going to download, it's always going to be a bit different. So you always have to experiment a bit with it. But now you see it works. So it's really small, okay, down here, but here in the corner, but I hope you see it, okay? So it is actually working. Now all we have to do is to actually write all of that markup so that it looks like this in the end, okay? So let's start by actually doing that. Leave this here, and we come back to it later. So basically this is very simple actually. All we need here is a row with 4 columns in it. And then each of these columns can have a feature box in them. So with Emmet again, we do it like this. Row, then call 1 of 4. And I could actually do this 4 times now to fill everything up at the same time. But let's just do it like this, only with one of the columns, okay? And actually I forgot the dot to make it a class. And then in here, let's put a feature box. All right, and there it is. And so this feature box will be one of these boxes here. So remember that before, so in this section here, we wrote this content here directly into the column. So remember that? So here we had this column in here, and then in here we directly put these elements. So the H3, the piece, and so on. Now this time we're not doing it like that. We're creating another box right in here. And we do that first because we want to have more space between them than the gutter, but more importantly, it's because we want this effect to happen like this. And so we want this entire feature box to scale up when we hover it. And it's better to then create a separate element for that rather than manipulating this kind of stuff on our columns. So we never want to touch these columns here, okay? The code for the grid should remain unchanged, no scaling on there, no adding additional padding. If we want anything like that, we just add another box in there, okay? So what do we have in each of these boxes? We have an icon, and let's actually grab that one. What's going on here? Okay. Then we have an H3, so a tertiary heading, and you see that this one is exactly the same as this, and so we can reuse this code, of course. So H3 dot heading tertiary. Explore the world is the first one. And then after that, it's simply a paragraph called feature box text. All right, and here we actually should add another class because it's a feature box icon. So feature box is the name of the block here, okay? And an icon is the name of the element. Okay, as for this text, let's just copy a bit of this text here. And maybe that's enough already. And so let's paste it in here. All right. And so, yeah, so this should be enough already. Now, as you can already guess, probably, this feature box here should be a component. So a building block that can be reused throughout our page. So let's create a new folder for that. I'm actually copying it, so I can now just do it like this. And then don't forget to include it import components and feature box. Give it a save, and then we can already close it again. And here again, feature box, and that's it. Now the other selector is the feature box icon, and the other one is the feature box text, I believe. And so yeah, that should be enough. Let me just take a look at how this looks in here. And alright, so we have the H3, the paragraph, and the icon, which is still very small of course, but they're already sitting here nicely in one of these columns. So let's go back and close what we no longer need here, typography, variables we can keep open. And now what I want you to do next, or what we can do together next, is to actually add this section here. So the section about the feature box. So the section features. And let's start by add some padding. So padding, let's say 200 pixels. So 20 rem, and then 0 left and right. So it's really modern right now to have really spacey websites. So with lots of white space, that's really modern and trendy right now. And I think it looks great actually. So another thing we have in this section here, in case you haven't noticed yet, is once again we have one of these background images with this gradient going on, just like here. And so instead of writing it all over again, I'm actually just going to copy it because we already know how to do that. So that's not really a need to do it all again. So what we need is this background image stuff here, right? And yeah, so here it is. So we have a linear gradient with this green color here. Now this color picker here no longer works because of the sass variable, but don't worry, everything is right. So the light green to the dark green to the right bottom. Now what's different here is the image, and this time it's called net4, net4.jpg. Okay, and what we also want, like almost always I would say, is the background size set to cover so it nicely covers the entire section. All right, let's take a look at that now. And yeah, so that's very nice already. And it's good enough for now. So let's continue now with these boxes here. And then as the finishing touch, we will skew the entire design to make it look like this one here with these non-rectangular sides, okay? So the feature box. We want it to be white and a bit transparent at the same time. So let's do that. So background color. And so we use an RGBA once again. Color white. And then let's say we want 80% of it to be white. Basically like an opacity of 20%. Because what this means is that we can see through 80%. And so the remaining 20% is like what you can see through the color. Now the font size that we want is 1.5 because I experimented with 1.6 rem, but it's way too big actually. It doesn't look really natural, it doesn't look good. Now we also want some padding in these boxes. So 2.5 rem, so basically 25 pixels. We want the text in them to be centered, if you remember that. And we want them to have a nice border radius. Really a small one, so nothing too much, because that would look weird and not modern, but a very small one then again looks modern. And now finally a box shadow, because that also is a huge design trend that's going on right now, and so that's why I included it in this course. So you probably already know that I care a lot about great design, and that's why I built all my courses actually around these cool designs. And I try to make this project as attractive as possible to you so that it's more fun for you to code. All right, so this is all pretty straightforward and pretty easy. It's nothing really new to you anymore. And so, yeah, this looks pretty good already. Well, what's missing here is to give this some more space, just like we did up here, and then to just format the icon, right? So first, let's use the utility class that we used up here. So we want this small margin at the bottom going on here as well. So where is that? Ah, yeah, so right here. Okay, And now we want to style the feature box icon. And so it's already here. And so let's write some code for it. The first thing we want to do is to increase it. And so remember that this is effectively a font. And so we can say font size in order to change the size of the icon. So font size 6 rem, which is a lot, but it actually is the correct size. We want it to have a margin to the bottom, like 5 pixels, so 0.5 rem. And so let's now take a look at how it looks and what our goal is for this icon. So I think I mentioned before that once again this has this really nice gradient here going on, just like it has in here. And do you remember how we do that? Well, if you do, then this is the challenge for this section. So try to code up this gradient here just like we did before. And so pause the video and I'll be waiting for you to do that. So did you manage to do it? I really hope so. Now I'm not going to do it, I will just copy what we did before. So I'm a bit lazy here this time. So it's here in the typography, I remember, and it is here in the heading. So background image, actually it starts in here because we want the gradient to go from one side to the other only. And then all of this. Close it, put it here, and it should already be enough. So it's now an inline block. It has this background image, which is this gradient from green to green, light to dark green, and then it clips that gradient by the text. And remember that once again we can do this because the icon font is text, in fact, okay? And so once again we can use color because it is text. So let's check out if this is already working. And indeed, here it is. So great. That's exactly how we want this to look like. The only thing that's missing now is this hover effect. So it goes up a little bit when we hover and then it goes back down. Actually, it doesn't only go up, it also scales, right? So what we need here is to add a line of code here where we say when we hover the feature box. So what happens, of course, is a transform. And you're already noticing that we're using transform all the time. And that's because it's really an amazing property. It allows us to do so many stuff. So we wanted to move up, and so by now you already know that we do that by using translate Y, right? So in the Y direction. And then let's just scale it up just a tiny little bit, like 1.03, just like this. All right, so let's check that out. Okay, and of course we're missing the transition here. So transition. And now we can actually write the property that we want to animate because it's just one. Transition. And let's do an animation of 0.3 seconds this time. All right. Actually, we don't even need this selector here because we're not formatting the code at all. So you're maybe asking why this then has the font size that we specified. And well, it does so because of inheritance, right? So we defined the font size here in the feature box of 1.5 rem, and then the paragraph, which is a child of the feature box, simply inherits this font size. So we just have to define it on the parent, and then it will automatically inherit. Okay, and so now it should work as expected. Well, not really. Let me check out why that is. Well, of course, it's transform here. What a silly mistake. But that happens all the time, okay? As you're coding, it's absolutely normal to make mistakes. And that's something you can't avoid, and it's not a problem, okay? I do these mistakes, you probably do these mistakes, and everyone does this kind of silly mistakes. Okay, and so what we have to do now is to just complete our markup here. Well, what's going on in here? I'm not really sure. I don't think there's any mistake. Well, that's this div. That's this one, that closes here, and that closes here. Well, it's a weird formatting, but I'm not going to fix that right now. Okay. What I want now is to check out this font reference here. So the next one that we want is the compass. So where is that? It's probably just called compass anyway. So yeah, so here it is. So this one here is called compass. Actually, no need to even copy anything or paste. So the compass, then the next one, let's take a look. It's the map and then the heart, okay? So map, that's right. And then let's just check if there's a heart. All right, so heart. So map and heart. And the text that we have for these, the first one was explore the world. The next one is meet nature. Then we have find your way. And finally, live a healthier life. So let's check it out. All right, so here we go. Well, something that is weird here is this really small space that we have here between these boxes. It's different than this one here. So let me just check this out. So everything looks good. But, yeah, okay, I see. So here we have this small margin, this really small margin, only to RAM. And I remember that we changed this where I demonstrated you how great it is to have a variable to set the gutter of the grid. So, yeah, so it's here. So I set this to 2, but originally it was at 6. So let's set it back to 6 now and then take a look. And okay, yeah, so this looks better now. And actually up here, I also thought before that it was really close, and now I know why that was, because it was also because of this small gutter. Now we have a bit too much text here. Let's just delete a couple of words so that it looks more natural like it did before. But here everything is great now. So the next step is to put it like this. So to skew this entire section. Okay, so this was just a small mistake, just a small bug that I forgot to fix. All right, just delete some words from here. And so, yeah, let's go back to the feature box, or actually to the home file, because it's here in the section features definition where we are going to take care of the skewed design, right? So how are we going to do that? So maybe the first thing that comes to your mind is to again use the clip path property that we used before on the heading. And yeah, we could theoretically do that and it would be okay, but I wanted to show you another nice trick. And that is the following. So what we can do is to simply skew the entire section. So we use a transform and we used skew before. So skew, and we want to do it in the Y direction. So let's set it to -7 degrees. And I'm going to show you the differences in a second in the inspector, okay? So let's just check it out here. And so here we go. Don't worry about this one, we're going to fix it in a second. But now this is what it looks like. All right, so let me just show the different values to you. So -7 looks like this. So from 0, it would be like this. And if we put positive values, it starts skewing in this direction, okay? But with the negative value, it then moves like upward, so it skews upward. And that shows -7 simply because visually it looks like this is the same inclination now as this one, okay? So it's just a visual thing. Now, two things that we have to fix here. First up, since we are skewing all of this, we now created this white gap here, okay? So what can we do about that? We simply move up the entire thing a couple of pixels here, a couple of rams, so that it covers all of this white. And the next thing is then to, of course, put these back in their original position. And let's actually start with that. So how do you think we're going to do that? Well, the most intuitive thing to do is to simply skew these in the opposite direction, right? And that's what we're going to do. So we skewed the entire section by -7 degrees. And so let's just skew these boxes by 7 degrees. So they basically just skew back. And now we could go ahead and go here to the feature boxes and then implement that here. So put the skew and put 7 degrees. But we're going to do it differently. Because imagine that one day we want to put something else here in the section features. Okay, so imagine we add a couple of other boxes with different names or something. And then what would we do? We would then have to add that transform in this new content as well. And so we don't want to do that. And so what I'm going to do is that I will show you a new selector, which is the direct child selector. So let's write it like this. So ampersand and then direct child, and the direct childs that I want to select are all of them. And so the universal selector here. So universal selector simply selects everything, but only everything that is a direct child of the section features. Okay, and that's it. So let me demonstrate to you how it would look like in compiled CSS. So basically section features and then direct childs, all of them. And why do we have to use this direct child? So if we would just do it like this, we would select all the childs, right? Not only the direct childs, but simply all the children element. And we don't want to do that. We only want to select the direct children. So in the HTML, let me take a look. So the direct children is actually only one child, and it's that one. So it's the row. And so basically what this command does is it takes this element here and it skews the row by -7 degrees. Well, we haven't written that, but we will. And yeah, of course it's here. And so let's simply do it like this. All right, let's take a look. And indeed, here we go. Let me check it in the inspector here as well. So you see that in here, this is where it applies. In here, it does not apply. It only applies here, right? So if we take this out, it looks like it did before. And if we put it back, then of course it's skewed. So again, it's skewed basically in the other direction to compensate for the skewing of the entire section. Now, if we didn't have the selector like this, let me actually change it. So without the direct child, then everything would be skewed as well. And so now you have this one here skewed, so it looks really weird now. So this one is now skewed, this box, and then in there, the 3 elements are also skewed. So these here are like triple skewed, so they are skewed 3 times because the parent is skewed and the parent of that one is skewed as well, and so it's really weird. So you see now, well, it doesn't appear here. But anyway, yeah, so that's what would happen if we would not have used the direct child. So again, the direct child will only select the first child that it comes across, basically, and then apply the styles that we put in there. All right. And so, yeah, this was another way of doing this skewed section design. Now, of course, this image here is now skewed. Okay. It doesn't look the same way it looked before, but you don't really notice that. So it's not really a big problem. All right. And what we just have to do is to move up the entire thing a little bit. And let's do that by trial and error, basically. So section features. So let's just simply apply a negative margin here, okay, to the top. So margin top minus 10 rem. So we're starting with 10 rem, and let's see how far we have to go. And so, yeah, so it already is covering now the other section exactly like we want it to look like. Let me take a look. So, well, this is actually it. And for some reason, I cannot manipulate this right now. Well, what's happening here? Let me reload the page. All right, so for some reason that didn't work, but it does now. So with 11, it doesn't really work. 9. So with 9, you already see this white thing here. So just to be sure, let's leave it at minus 10 rem, okay? And so now we're good to go. Okay, now we see that by doing this, we don't have a lot of space here in this section, right? So this is really close, but I think it's still all right. We can leave it like that. Okay, and maybe if in the end it does look strange, we can then do a final adjustment of that, okay? And so I think that is it. That's everything I had to show you for this lecture. So I'm showing you a lot of different things. As you can see, I'm showing you a lot of selectors, a lot of new properties, basically a lot of new tools for your CSS toolkit. And I'm doing that because I want you to be able to use all these tools in your future websites. So I hope you're really following this and understanding this, because I don't want you to just copy my designs when you start building your own websites. I want you to truly and deeply understand exactly what I'm doing and the tools I'm giving you, so that you can then use them in your own designs and coming up with your own designs as well. So with all of this, I want to give you tools and I want to make you think about how everything works. And yeah, in the end, just make you a capable CSS developer. So that is really my goal with all of this. Okay, but enough talk. See you next time.